India and Singapore have come a long way in developing their countries. Though we are moving towards a society where men and women will be given equal opportunities, what is the real situation of gender inequalities in our countries?
Sexual misconduct is a broad, non-legal term that encompasses a wide range of behaviors and including but not limited to sexual assault, sexual harassment and stalking.
Harassment is concerned, I think every woman in India would have experienced it, which does not exclude me.
It happens in bus stands, it happens when you're traveling, it happens when you least expect it, and it also happens from the least expected person.
Sexual harassment has been a major issue and has taken a great toll on the mental health of several women who have experienced it. This unspoken issue have silenced many women to reach out for help.
அம்மா நிற்கும் போது ஜென்ரலாக குழந்தைங்கள வந்துட்டு யாராவது ஜென்ஸ் இல்லை லேடிஸ் யாராவது உட்காந்துருக்கவங்க கிட்ட கொடுக்கணும்னு நினச்சி கொடுக்குற போது உட்காந்துருக்க அந்த பர்சன் வந்து நம்ம அவங்க மேலே உட்காந்துருக்கோம் பட் அவங்க மிஸ்பிஹேவ் பண்ணி அந்த இடத்துல டச் பண்ணுறது முதற்கொண்டு it will be happen to me as well.
He took me into a room and he started kissing me on the lips, and I don't know what was going on because I was just 5. So he started kissing me and he also started undressing me, but then my maid intervened and stopped it, thankfully.
He touched my breast area and he left.
Non-explicit photos of myself and then posted with explicit comments. So there were a lot of reposts and then people who commented things that they did to me, things they wanted to do to me, all those kind of stuff with very, very disgusting comments.
I was 16, he was 22. And I think he made a few advances and he has mentioned that he wanted more. So when I rejected him, that was when it was more annoying for me because he would be violent at work. So he would threaten to, because we would always end shift at about 11 o'clock. So we are both like we're doing the closing, and he would threaten to throw the boiling oil at my face. And I was wearing gloves, and he grabbed my hand and he put my hand to the oven.
Most young girls who have faced sexual harassment don't voice out because of their fear that they might be denied opportunities.
I felt so uncomfortable and upset. I was angry at myself. So that was when I realized that I was harassed.
I was like really scared.
So say to that is mom and dad, because they will be thinking, okay, the world is not good. Let we keep our girl in our home. அப்படின்ற மாதிரி நினச்சிடுவாங்கன்ற பயத்தினாலேயே we will not speak to the parents.
They are very scared to tell their parents. They're very scared to open it up with their parents because they feel that the immediate reaction would be, you stop going to college, you stop your studies.
That's the fear. It's not that they don't want to share it or they don't want to take a legal route. They are willing to do it, but they know very well that it will backfire because the parents will pull them out of college.
We need to understand why the students are not coming forward to report. I think by understanding the root causes, then we can actually address about, is it trust building or is it other issues that we actually need to handle. So I think by understanding the root causes first, then you can look into how can then the school encourage.
It was a lot of those freeze, flight, fight thing. It's a lot of freezing for me and just looking at the perpetrator, I guess, and not doing anything and just waiting to move on. As in, it sucks, but I obviously still feel regret for not standing up for myself.
It's just something that is quite scary to even open up to your parents about it because you don't even know how their reaction is gonna be or anything. So I tried to manage the situation wherever I could.
Schools have been actively working to find ways to support survivors of sexual harassment.
So the investigation process will involve fact-finding, gathering of evidence as needed. So the investigator will conduct interviews with the complainant's alleged perpetrator and witnesses as deemed necessary. So all complaints
will actually be handled in a fair, prompt and impartial manner. So we also ensure that the complainant and respondents are given a fair hearing. So if emotional support is needed, then we will seek assistance from our counsellors at the counselling centre. So all involved in the investigation will also be required to keep the information confidential.
The Women's Study Centre, they collaborate very closely with the counselling unit on campus so that you give the emotional support that the girl needs, and at the same time you have mentor-mentee system. This is again a system that is there in college from, I think, from the time of its inception.
It's a very special hand-holding method where each student is given a guide or a mentor, and this person will be responsible for this student's welfare during her stay in Lady Doak College. So whether it be an emotional need or a financial need or something related to her academics, any problem or any crisis a student has, she always comes to the mentor. So the mentee is literally handheld by the mentor during these 3 years.
The centre has to make its presence felt in the college community so that the students know that this is a place you can come to when you are in this kind of a need.
We hope to help students transcend these barriers and give the space or promote the space for them to be themselves.
You make them aware of what is their potential, what is their right, and what can they see as infringement of their rights and their personality.
We engaged with a task force comprising of staff members from the Centre for Experiential Learning, and with that had a few key outcomes that we are intentionally executing at this point in time. First of which was creating an online module, right, with the help of a clinical psychologist who is also one of our associates at SUSS. Working with her to create this online module was important in enabling students to gain access to the knowledge and information, to be familiar with concepts such as informed consent and boundaries, right? The second important one was the curation of training for our student leaders. This was on psychological first aid, and it's something we equip our student leaders with in terms of how to manage cases of harassment should they encounter it on the ground. The third one is about webinars. So this is a general form of education. We work in partnership with the Law Society Pro Bono Services, right? And we're very glad to have that partnership with us. They host a series of webinars, one of them focusing on harassment. So they do this once or twice a year, right? And we will promote their webinars to our students to encourage them to attend.
The community plays an important part in supporting survivors, as a supportive reaction is a critical component in the survivor's road to recovery.
Yeah, I think in terms of external support, I think it is quite well known in Singapore, right? Aware the Sexual Assault Care Centre provides actually, I would say, very substantial support to victims or survivors of sexual harassment. I think aside from that, we also have a 24-hour national anti-violence hotline, where basically victims are able to call and get in touch any time of the day, and also in multiple languages. So I think this kind of support is really important. Aside from that, obviously is all the counselling services that are available from social service organizations, agencies, family centers, as well as many of our not-for-profit organizations who basically offer counselling. I think the most important in terms of external support for victims or survivors is where they need to find someone where they are comfortable with. I mean, it could be or a center or an agency where they are comfortable to open up, to talk about their experience and be able to get the genuine support that they are looking for.
Allyship is very important. It is also important for girls to understand boys, that important for both boys and girls to understand that we are all victims of a structure, of a systemic kind of norm setting process that takes place, and how we recognize that these are norms that do not understand one another's identity or the uniqueness of each other's potential and so on.
Peer support is indeed very important in looking out for incidents of sexual harassment. So university will continue to raise awareness amongst the student population and encourage students to look out for one another, be vigilant to acts of sexual harassment and come forward to report such incidents ASAP.
Survivors are often subjected to negative reactions which reinforce self-blame and the tendency to invalidate their experiences. It is important to raise awareness on the proper ways to support survivors and to prevent such incidents from happening in the first place.
We as young people, young women, we needed to establish ourselves, break the silence.
I think it sounds very hypocritical, but it's obviously not your fault because it's not like you can control what they're thinking, what they're gonna do, and the only thing you can control is technically yourself. So you can't continue living blaming yourself for what actually happened to you because it's unfair.
I just feel that you shouldn't be afraid to speak out about it, and I know that the social media is probably gonna blast at you, like saying that, oh, it's your fault for dressing this way, it's your fault for posting like this, and they're just gonna say things like, oh, you're asking for it and all, because that is the most common things that I see on social media, just people getting back at those people, especially when they expose like the people who done these kind of things to them. So I feel that don't be afraid about these kind of things, because as much as there will be people who get back at you that way, I feel that there will always be more people who will support you.
Like this happens to you, any kind of section, even if it is cyberbullying, talk about it, because when you talk about it, and parents should be willing to listen to it. So once there is a dialogue going, most of these things can stop.
I think the first step is to make them not feel guilty about it and not feel ashamed about it. And the second step would be to talk about it, so that the more voices, the better it is. There'll be more visibility and we can create some kind of change.
So eradicating sexual misconduct requires collective responsibility at both student and institutional levels to create and increase awareness, maintain vigilance, and having the support systems and infrastructure in place to provide a safe and educational environment for the university community.
For me, the emphasis would be let's work together to create this safe space. Right? What we can provide is the tools and the infrastructure to make that happen. Eventually, it is about the students themselves adopting this mindset.
For individuals, we should not have a negative perception or be judgmental about it. I think that's the most important. Is it a friend or family member or even a stranger, right, who has such an experience? It is really not for us to judge, because we never know what are the circumstances. And I don't think anyone deserves this kind of treatment. So I think what we can do as an individual, bystander or whatever, I think we need to give support and a listening ear to the victims. And especially I think bystander has a huge responsibility. And I think we need to do more.